everyone, I'm Kelly and I'm one of the health coaches here at Parsley Health, and today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about something called the Low FODMAP diet. At one time, if you struggled with gastrointestinal issues, digestive troubles, you didn't have many options for treatment. Luckily, in recent years, there are a lot more treatment options available for those that struggle with chronic digestive issues such as IBS or irritable bowel syndrome. Long are the days of just the blanket advice to abandon spicy foods. Now, the most common treatment plans include something called the Low FODMAP diet, a therapeutic nutrition plan which can help you identify triggers in your diet that may be causing your digestive symptoms. If you regularly experience gas or abdominal distension, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, or other similar GI issues, this video is for you. Let's get into what the Low FODMAP diet is, how it works, and how you might try it to see if it can help manage your digestive problems. So first things first, what is a FODMAP? FODMAP is an acronym that stands for fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. Those are basically all fancy words for particular fermentable carbohydrates that are found in certain foods. You might have a hard time digesting these foods if you have some issues going on. Typically, there's three things that might be at play. One of these issues could be that you have an intestinal bacterial imbalance. If you have an imbalance in your intestine, when you ingest high amounts of fermentable fibers from FODMAPs through the diet, what happens is the bacteria go to town. They think of this raw material as food for them. So if you have a lot of bacteria that are overgrown, these bacteria are going to digest the fibers, eat the fibers, and then going to produce an excess amount of hydrogen, methane, and carbon dioxide gases, which then causes abdominal distension and bloating for the individual that has the imbalanced intestine. Another possible reason that high FODMAP foods might be giving you issues is because you have a lack of motility in your intestine or a sluggish digestive system. Basically, if these high fiber foods sit for long periods of time in the intestine, they're going to ferment from the bacteria. But remember that fiber is healthy, but it's also an indigestible part of food. So if it sits for long periods of time in the intestine, the bacteria will ferment it, and then again, it can cause a bit more gas, bloating, and distension for you. The third reason is that it actually could be a combination of both. If you have a sluggish digestive system that just doesn't move quickly, paired with an intestinal imbalance of your gut microbiome, these two things together might make matters even worse and really make you even more sensitive to high FODMAP foods or high fermentable fiber foods in your diet. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what a low FODMAP diet looks like and what it would mean to really restrict FODMAPs in the diet to help alleviate some of your digestive symptoms. The reason this is tricky for some patients is because a low FODMAP diet is just not an intuitive diet. Good and bad foods don't necessarily exist because really healthy foods like garlic, onion, Brussels sprouts that usually you're encouraged to eat on a healthy diet are actually foods that are particularly high in FODMAPs and might be causing some of your digestive symptoms. That said, because a low FODMAP diet tends to restrict foods that are high in fibers that actually are healthy foods, this is really a short-term therapeutic intervention that is not meant to be followed long-term. You're just meant to eliminate these foods for a short period of time to clear out your system and use it as a blank slate to help identify which foods might actually be causing trouble for you more than others in the diet. This is how it works. First, you need to eliminate FODMAPs from the diet for about 4 weeks. When we say eliminate, we really mean go low FODMAP. Since there are so many different FODMAPs in foods, this really just means trying to lower your threshold of how many FODMAPs you're consuming to help reduce symptoms. After the 4-week low FODMAP diet intervention, you then strategically reintroduce foods back into the diet group by group. You introduce each of the 6 FODMAP carbohydrate groups, like the polyol group, which includes things like avocados and peaches, for example. And you eat increasing quantities of these foods for the first 3 days of the week. You really want to pay close attention to any symptoms that are going on for you. It really can be helpful to try tracking in a journal or on your phone, or reaching out to your health coach for a little bit of guidance during the process. Then, after the first 3 days of incrementally increasing the amount of the particular FODMAP group you're testing, you have a 4 to 7 day washout period where you avoid all polyols from food again to clear them from your system and identify any late onset symptoms that might arise. If you don't experience any symptoms during the first 3 days of reintroduction or in the 4 to 7 day period of the washout, we would then assume that you might not have an issue particularly with polyols. And then if you really experience intense bloating, then we would say perhaps polyols are the specific FODMAP group that your body is struggling to digest. So So then we'd have you eliminate those polyols again for at least another 4 weeks, and you could repeat the process of reintroduction in another month or so after they've been removed from the diet again. Some foods can actually be low FODMAP in small amounts, but high FODMAP in higher amounts. For example, blueberries are fine in quarter cup quantities, but when you exceed that threshold, they actually become a high FODMAP food. But with one, okay. For other foods, it actually depends on which part of the food you consume that indicates whether it's high or low FODMAP. A really good example of this is broccoli. For example, broccoli heads are low FODMAP, but broccoli stalks are high FODMAP. So being really mindful of which part of the vegetable you're consuming might actually dictate whether it's a high or low FODMAP foods. For other foods, it can also depend on where it comes from or how it's prepared. For example, artichoke in the can are low FODMAP, but whole artichokes are high FODMAP. As you can see, because this diet tends to be a bit tricky and a little in the nitty-gritty and not intuitive, it's really helpful to download an app from Monash University. This university has the most up-to-date database for understanding which foods are high FODMAP, low FODMAP, and where the threshold might lie to making them one or the other. The beauty of this app is that it uses a stoplight system in order to keep track of which foods are high, moderate, and low FODMAP. Green light for lowest, red light for highest, yellow light for medium, to make it really simple to use and follow. So why should you try a low FODMAP diet? For those that really struggle with chronic digestive issues, such as those with irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, small intestinal bacterial growth, or SIBO, these can really help to target what specific foods might be actually fueling your symptoms. Specifically, SIBO is a condition in which bacteria from the large intestine gets trapped higher up in the GI tract, where they're not supposed to be, and causes problems such as bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, burping, abdominal pain, basically any digestive symptom you can name. People who haven't been diagnosed with either of these conditions but experience these same symptoms regularly would also be really good candidates to trial out a low FODMAP diet. If you try a low FODMAP diet and it reduces or resolves your symptoms, this is a really good sign that something deeper is going on and SIBO or IBS might be at the root. Research is also emerging that shows that a low FODMAP diet might also be a helpful treatment option for those with inflammatory bowel disease or IBD as well. It's important to remember that a low FODMAP diet isn't meant to treat your underlying GI problem. Instead, it's really meant to be used as a therapeutic tool that helps to alleviate your symptoms and identify that a deeper issue exists and needs to be treated. To find out what the deeper issue may be, we recommend working with a doctor who specializes in gut health, like we do here at Parsley Health every day. Thanks for learning here with us today, and we hope you find relief soon.